Sometimes a single number can tell a whole story. And recently, all of Hollywood was holding its breath, waiting for just one number, the opening weekend box office for the new Avatar film. But what if that one number could tell us, well, everything about the future of movie theaters? Let's dive in and unpack it.
Okay, so this was not just another movie premiere. This was a massive, high-stakes gamble. We're talking about a budget rumored to be nearly $400 million. So yeah, the weight of the entire industry, from the biggest studio down to your local multiplex, was basically riding on this one movie.
Which brings us to the really big question, right? In a world where you can stream pretty much anything from your couch, can one single movie's performance really define the future of an entire industry? Well, Hollywood was about to get its answer. And then the number dropped. $88 million. Now look, for almost any other film, that is a fantastic opening, but for an Avatar movie, it felt, well, kind of like a miss. Analysts were all calling for over $100 million, so that first gut reaction across the industry was, oof, disappointment. But this is where the story gets really juicy. If you actually look at the numbers and compare that $88 million to the other Avatar films, even when you adjust for inflation, you can see exactly why people started freaking out a little. I mean, that's a pretty big drop. So was it a failure? Well, hold on a second. Not so fast. Because the domestic box office, that's only one little piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. The real story, it turns out, was just starting to unfold all over the world. And here is the plot twist. While the US numbers were, a bit soft, the international box office was absolutely on fire. It pulled in a wild $257 million. So suddenly, this isn't a story about a domestic disappointment. It's the story of a global blockbuster. You add all that up, and what do you get? $345 million worldwide in just one weekend. And that, right there, is the new reality for Hollywood. A movie can kind of stumble at home and still be a gigantic hit everywhere else. But even with $345 million in the bank, the pressure was definitely still on. I mean, James Cameron himself basically said it. With a budget this massive, the movie has to be a monster hit for its entire theatrical run to even justify making more sequels. The stakes? Yeah, they could not be higher. So what is going on here? How does this happen? Well, it all comes down to this idea of the event movie. You know what I'm talking about, these huge, spectacular films that you just have to see on the biggest screen you can find. They aren't just movies anymore, they're these global cultural moments that cross all kinds of borders and languages. Honestly, this whole Avatar story is the perfect snapshot of the challenges and the opportunities facing the entire movie business right now. So let's zoom out a bit. Let's take a look at the post-pandemic report card for Hollywood and see how theaters are really doing. All right, if we look at the hard data, the numbers tell a complicated story. The good news? The box office is up a little bit from last year. That's something. The bad news, though, is that we are still way off from those pre-pandemic numbers, down more than 22%. So yeah, the climb back is going to be slow and steady. I mean, it has been a total roller coaster for the industry, hasn't it? We had the peak in 2019, then the absolute slump during the pandemic. But then last year, we had Barbenheimer. That was a huge revival. And now there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. Some analysts are even forecasting that 2026 could be the biggest year since before all this started. But let's not get too carried away just yet, because James Cameron, the king of the blockbuster, he has a pretty serious warning for all of us. He thinks we are getting dangerously close to a point where making these giant, ambitious movies for the big screen just won't be financially possible anymore. So what's the plan? Are theaters and studios just going to sit back and let that happen? Nope. They are fighting back, and they actually have a really clear strategy to win over today's moviegoer. And you know what? It seems to be working. Get this. The habitual moviegoer, we're talking about that hardcore fan who sees at least 6 movies a year in theaters, that group is actually growing. It seems like after being cooped up, people are really craving those shared public experiences again. The core audience is coming back, and they're coming back strong. So what's the secret sauce? What's bringing them back in bigger numbers? Well, it really comes down to one word: investment. Theater owners have spent an incredible $1.5 billion just in the past year upgrading the whole movie-going experience. They are betting big on the future of going to the movies. And that $1.5 billion is going into a very specific three-part plan. First, upgrade the whole experience. Think deluxe seats, way better food. Second, invest in more of those premium screens, like IMAX. And third, really focus on bringing in Gen Z with adaptations and special events. It's a pretty bold playbook, but hey, it just might be what the industry needs. But here's a really important point. It's not all about Avatar. That same weekend, a faith-based animated movie, a thriller, and the new SpongeBob movie all did really well. And that's a huge reminder that for the box office to be truly healthy, you need a whole menu of different kinds of films for different kinds of people. Okay, so we've looked at the numbers, the strategies, the warnings. After all that, what does the future actually hold for the movie theater? Let's try to put it all together. You know, one box office analyst, Sean Robbins, I think he said it perfectly. The game has changed. What it takes to get people to leave their house and go to a theater is just different now. And he thinks studios are finally starting to figure out what that new formula is. So here's the real takeaway, the big conclusion. The movie theater isn't dying. It's just evolving. The future isn't about competing with streaming. It's about offering something different. It's about premium experiences, global events, and creating that special shared feeling that you just can't replicate on your couch. So the industry is adapting. The theaters are evolving. They're making a big bet on a future built around spectacle and community. The real question, though, is a personal one for all of us. Are you still going?